As good as the Big Ten is, it's hard to believe that a week ago, only Purdue and Wisconsin were part of the AP Top 25. The Badgers, after a struggle this week, going winless, likely to fall into the category of receiving votes, and they'll have plenty of Big Ten company. Indiana, Michigan State, Northwestern, Illinois, Rutgers, and Ohio State were all part of that group in the most recent AP Top 25. Of course, there's a chance that Illinois moves out of that group after a nice week, and a big reason why, the play of Terrence Shannon. It is time for Advanced Scout, and Raphael is going to take us through what Illinois looks like with and without Terrence Shannon Jr. on the floor.
Yeah, Terrence Shannon has definitely figured out what Coach Underwood wants from him, especially on the offensive end. He is getting to the basket with a full head of steam, whether he's going to his right hand or he's going to his left hand. Over the last 3 games, 3 wins, he's averaging 22 points a game, 8 rebounds, 3 steals. He's shot 7 free throws a game. He is not even dependent on his jump shot. When this guy gets to the basket, it is nothing you can do with him. And once he gets cooking, he starts to add in that 3 ball, and he's basically unguardable. But Illinois, they've also figured out what to do when Terrence Shannon is not on the floor. The ball moves at a way better pace now. Over the last 3 games, 40 assists on their 80 made field goals. It's no longer those step backs, those side steps, those fadeaway threes that Coach Underwood talked about in those press conferences. The ball is going exactly where it needs to go. And when you're playing the game the right way, the basketball guys tend to reward you. They are cleaning up the offensive glass. They are making shots. This is a good offensive team, and we know who they could be. Now they're playing that way.
They also got a great performance in that win over Michigan State from the big fella. Yep. Dane Danger played by far the best game he's played for Illinois. It's interesting with Shannon because you can make the argument that at least defensively, Illinois sometimes, is a better team with Shannon on the bench, but you're not going to trade that because then you miss so much on the offensive end. Mike, what do you take away from what Illinois has done as of late, especially that win over Michigan State, which was huge?
Yeah, that Michigan State win, I think what's being missed is how great they were defensively. Michigan State did not make a 3-point shot in that game, and as I watched them play against Kentucky back in the Champions Classic, I saw Kentucky leave Joey Hauser open over and over and over, and I'm looking at that and I'm thinking John Calipari must be going nuts because the one thing on the scouting report you say, don't ever leave that guy. If you don't leave him, he's a great open shooter, but what's part of that? Great shooter, great, but he's got to be open. And if you leave him open, then he's going to make the shot. And Illinois did not do that at all in their game in Champaign.
And you can see it in Brad Underwood's face, in his countenance, in the way he's interacting with his players. They're getting the message that he was trying so hard to send during the course of their little losing streak. And that message, well, it can be seen and heard not just by the Illini, but by the viewers, because Monday, the Illini and Gophers battle it out at the barn. Action underway. It is a special holiday broadcast, 6 Eastern, only on Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. And yes, our coverage does begin with a tip-off show, which comes your way at 5:30 Eastern. Let's discuss some of those other teams receiving votes. And we'll start, Mike, with the team that just lost to Illinois, Michigan State. They were riding a 7-game win streak. It's always tough to win on the road. The home environment in Champaign was great. You wonder if Tom Izzo changes anything or if he just says, listen, I've done this forever. I understand there are going to be games we want back.
Yeah, I don't think he has to change anything. They were on a great streak. They'd won so many in a row. And I think if he could change anything, if there's one thing he could do, he'd get Malik Hall healthy. Because with Malik Hall, they are a better offensive team because he can score in so many different ways, all 3 levels. Not an elite 3-point shooter, but a guy who can make a shot under pressure. He can put the ball on the floor and get it to the rim. He can score in the post. And you would be amazed at how much better defensively their numbers are when Malik Hall is on the floor. What they've been able to do to this point in the season with him playing as little as he has is really impressive.
And it's been impressive how A.J. Hoggard has been playing. And Tom Izzo sent A.J. Hoggard to the bench in that Penn State game, had him come off of the bench in his hometown, in his home area, and he's really responded. He didn't take it the bad way. He took it and just went on for the full head of steam. Last 6 games, 42 assists, only 10 turnovers. That was his Achilles heel, throwing the ball to the other team. When Michigan State has a solid point guard, knows where the ball needs to go, knows the system, they're a better team. And then I love what Coach has done by putting Tyson Walker at the 2 position, taking him off the ball, giving him more freedom to go and just get a bucket. His bag is deep, and now Coach Izzo is letting him reach into it.
Well, and Michigan State can do that. You got a little bit of depth. Of course, Jaden Aiken's back there as well with A.J. Hoggard. I think, personal opinion, I think Michigan State is a more dangerous team than people are giving them credit for, and they didn't get a lot of credit, even with that 7-game win streak. Now, Indiana was stuck in the wrong kind of streak as of late, not just losing games, but they had no Race Thompson, they had no Xavier Johnson. Then they come out and beat Wisconsin. Now, to be fair, Badger fans will remind everybody there was no Tyler Wall, which makes Wisconsin most certainly a different team. But I think Indiana is fascinating. They're just 2-4 in the Big Ten, yet you look at their talent, Rafael. Trace Jackson-Davis, still all-world talent. Jalen Hood-Schifino has showed us he may be one of the best freshmen, not just in the Big Ten, but in the country. This is a team that, if it gets healthy, can still do some serious damage.
But they've got to do it on a defensive end. And over the last few games, they have not guarded the three-point line well. Before that Wisconsin game, those previous 3 games, they've given up 32 made three-pointers, allowing teams to shoot 46% from the three-point line. In the Big Tens, if teams can come in your gym, shoot 40% from the three-point line, 45% from the three-point line, they're going to win a lot of those games. Last year, this Indiana team, they hung their hat on the defensive end. They were top 5 in every defensive category in the Big Ten. This year, they're bottom third of the Big Ten when it comes to scoring, defensive field goal percentage, and also giving teams open threes.
Wisconsin without Tyler Wall is probably the least dangerous offensive team in this conference. With him, they're one of the best. He makes that big a difference because he can score so many different ways. He's tall, so he can score in the post, and he makes a difference being able to stretch the defense as well. But what I think that Indiana was able to use that game to get well. Now, do they apply that against Illinois? Illinois is a much greater challenge as they're constituted now with the momentum that they're starting to build. So do they take the confidence that they built with their defensive performance on Saturday and then apply that to that game? I think this is the most important game in Indiana's season right now.
And coaches will tell you, you don't get momentum by winning one game. You end bad habits. The momentum comes when you build with a second win on top of that win that helps snap whatever streak you were in. Leading scorers, and there are some names you certainly know on this list, like Caitlin Clark, averaging nearly 27, IU big Mackenzie Holmes. Those are the 2 players over 20 points per game in the league. But Diamond Miller, Taylor Mikesell, Makira Cook, certainly all in the conversation for Player of the Year. Let's get more on that race at the midseason.
Hi, I'm Stephanie White, and welcome to Steph's Take. Well, it's that time of year again where we start talking about who's the Player of the Year. I want to give you my Player of the Year candidates, the ones that are part of the conversation. First, I want to start with a player that you may or may not have heard of. She might be being talked about as a National Player of the Year candidate as well, but Iowa Hawkeyes, Caitlin Clark. She's the fastest player since Elena Deladon to 2,000 points. She's potentially going to shatter the NCAA scoring record. She's already got the Big Ten record for triple doubles, and quite frankly, we've just not seen a player like her, not just in terms of her numbers and her production, but the way that she plays the game. Second on my list, Mackenzie Holmes. In any other year, she'd be a favorite for a Player of the Year. She stepped up huge in the absence of Grace Berger, and not just in terms of her numbers and her production, but her leadership. She's been the glue for the Indiana Hoosiers, and that's going to pay off dividends down the line. Next, Taylor Mikesell. Taylor Mikesell can flat out fill it up. She can score at all 3 levels, and she's stepped up in the absence of J.C. Sheldon. She's at the top of everyone's scouting report, and she still finds a way to be highly efficient. And oh, by the way, she's the head of the snake defensively as well. Look, there are a lot of great players in this league, Diamond Miller at Maryland being one of them, who are quite frankly being overshadowed because there's a unicorn in Iowa City, and Caitlin Clark's on another level.
Such a cool story. By the way, how would you like Zach Edey coming off the mound, raised up like that, throwing 80-mile-an-hour fastballs? He only had 17 and 11. Only 17 and 11. That's how good he's been. Last time out for Purdue, but it was more than enough. Fletcher Lawyer catching fire once again as Nebraska doubled down on Edey, and it was the 400th win of Matt Painter's Purdue career. Pretty amazing. Only 4 guys above Painter on the all-time wins list at Big Ten schools, and they're Hall of Famers. Lou Henson, Gene Cady, Bob Knight, Tom Izzo. And perhaps most amazingly, you think about the fact that Painter is really at this point a fairly young guy in this profession, has decades ahead of him if he wants it. Rafael, you played for Matt Painter, part of those 400 wins. What's your perspective on what Matt has done at this point in his career and maybe more intriguingly, what he can still do in the years to come in West Lafayette?
It's been crazy to see because I look at Coach Painter, I look at his career kind of as two different careers. And I know everybody's going to talk about Gene Cady when he first stepped into Purdue. But when Coach took over the program, he came in as associate head coach. They were 3-16 in the Big Ten. That following year, his first year as a head coach, they were 3-16 in the Big Ten. You just fast forward 2 years, you get the baby boilers, Robbie Hummel, Etwan Moore, they go 15-3 in the league. And then those guys leave. My sophomore year, we win 5 games in the league, finished last place in the Big Ten. That wasn't even 10 years ago. And now they're back top 5 in the country. Since I've left Purdue in 2016, they won the league, Elite Sweet 16, won the league, Elite 8, number 1 team in the country, back to number 1 team this year.
I think he's the most underrated coach in the country. And
You've said that for a long time.
Yeah, one of the reasons that's true is that people who don't really follow the sport that closely like to judge everything by March. And even in March, they're just judging by whether or not you make the Final Four. It's really, if you're not a Final Four coach, then you're not a great coach. And I think we've seen John Chaney has proven that to be ridiculous. Gene Cady has proven that to be ridiculous. And Matt Painter, I think he wants to correct that. I think he would like to address that. And he was 1 free throw away from making it in 2019. 1 free throw means he's not a great coach? Come on. He is smart. His players listen to him. He gets the right players to fit their system. Everything you want a program to be, Matt Painter delivers to you.
He has an encyclopedic basketball memory. You ask him about a play during Rafael's junior year from a game in February of 12 years ago?
Yep.
11, he would know the play, the players, how it worked out, and why the play call, because he always blames himself, wasn't quite good enough. An outstanding coach. I agree with you. The most underrated in the country.